For those who believe in the paranormal, objects can serve as vessels for malevolent forces. For over a century, spiritualists have asked, can inanimate things become conduits for evil? At least 3 adults claim to have experienced the answer firsthand through a seemingly innocent Raggedy Ann doll purchased in 1970. Their encounters with what they believed were entities would lead to one of the most famous cases in paranormal investigation history, examined by experts, locked away for decades, and feared by millions. The incident raises an important question. Just what happened with the Annabelle doll? Throughout the 20th century, cases of allegedly haunted objects have captivated investigators and skeptics alike. In 1972, the Hands Resist Him painting reportedly caused psychological distress to multiple adult owners, who claimed the figures in the artwork moved at night. The Busby Stoop chair in Thirsk, England, was said to bring misfortune to adults who sat in it, leading the pub owner to donate it to a museum where it now hangs safely out of reach. In Scotland, the Edinburgh vaults yielded numerous artifacts that paranormal researchers claimed carried negative energy, affecting adults who handled them during investigations. But these cases, whatever their validity, involved objects with dark histories or disturbing appearances. The Annabelle case would prove different. This wasn't a macabre painting or an ancient relic. This was a child's toy, a commercially produced Raggedy Ann doll with button eyes and yarn hair, the kind of innocent object found in countless homes across America. The pattern that made investigators take notice wasn't just the claims of supernatural activity, it was the escalation. What began as minor oddities reportedly progressed to physical attacks, always targeting adults. The progression suggested something deliberate, something intelligent, something that understood exactly what it was doing. The case came to the attention of Ed and Lorraine Warren, paranormal investigators who had built careers examining claims of hauntings, demonic possession, and supernatural phenomena. By 1970, the Warrens had already investigated dozens of cases, from the Perrin family haunting to various claims of demonic activity. They approached their work with a specific framework. Supernatural events were real, demons existed, and certain objects could serve as focal points for malevolent entities. Their involvement with the Annabelle doll would become one of their most documented cases. But the story begins not with the investigators, but with the witnesses who first experienced the phenomena. In 1970, a woman purchased a Raggedy Ann doll from a hobby store as a birthday gift for her daughter, Donna, a nursing student in her early 20s. Donna shared an apartment in Hartford, Connecticut with her roommate Angie, also a nursing student. Both women were in their 20s, pursuing professional careers, living the ordinary life of working adults in an unremarkable apartment. The doll was unremarkable itself, a standard Raggedy Ann, approximately 3 feet tall, with the characteristic red yarn hair, button eyes, and simple dress. It was given as a nostalgic gift, a connection to childhood in an adult world of studies and responsibilities. Donna placed it on her bed as decoration, a cheerful addition to the apartment. For the first few weeks, nothing unusual occurred. The doll sat where it was placed, an ordinary object in an ordinary home. Donna and Angie went about their routines, studying, working shifts at the hospital, managing their household. The doll was simply there, part of the furniture, barely noticed. Then the movement began. According to their later accounts to investigators, Donna first noticed the doll in different positions. Small changes initially. The doll's arms crossed instead of at its sides, its legs positioned differently than she remembered. The changes were subtle enough to dismiss as faulty memory or Angie moving it while cleaning. But the alterations became more pronounced. Donna would leave the doll on her bed in the morning and return to find it on the couch in the living room. She'd place it in a seated position and later discover it standing upright, propped against a wall. Most unsettling, she claimed to find the doll in different rooms entirely, rooms she distinctly remembered not entering that day. When she mentioned it to Angie, her roommate confirmed similar experiences. Angie had also noticed the doll appearing in locations neither of them could explain. The women began a simple test. They would position the doll carefully in the morning, note its exact placement, and check it throughout the day. According to their account, the doll consistently appeared in different locations, sometimes rooms away from where they'd left it. Both women were in medical training, accustomed to empirical observation and logical thinking. They looked for rational explanations first. Could vibrations from passing traffic shift the doll? Could air currents from heating vents cause it to topple and roll? They tested these possibilities, but the doll's movements didn't match these explanations. It wasn't falling or rolling. It was appearing in deliberate positions, in locations that would require someone physically carrying it. The phenomena escalated. They began finding the doll in rooms they kept locked. They'd secure it in a closet and return to find it back on the bed. The predictability of ordinary life was breaking down, replaced by an unsettling pattern of impossibility. Then the messages began appearing. Donna and Angie discovered handwritten notes throughout the apartment, scrawled on parchment paper in childlike handwriting. The messages were simple and unsettling. "Help us," and "Help Lou." The parchment itself was puzzling. Neither woman kept such paper in the apartment. They used notebook paper, printer paper, but nothing resembling the aged, parchment-like material these messages appeared on. Lou was a friend of Donna's, a man in his 20s who frequently visited the apartment. When shown the messages, he admitted he'd been deeply uncomfortable with the doll from the beginning. There was something about it, he told them, that felt wrong. He'd urged Donna to get rid of it, but she dismissed his concerns as superstition. The messages continued appearing, always on this mysterious parchment paper, always in that same childlike script. The content remained focused on appeals for help, pleading with a desperation that both women found increasingly disturbing. They searched the apartment repeatedly for the source of the parchment, but found nothing. It was around this time that Donna began finding the doll in increasingly specific positions. She'd discover it kneeling, as if in prayer. She'd find it with its arms outstretched, as if reaching for something. These weren't random falls or tumbles. They were deliberate poses, positions that seemed to communicate intent. Both women were struggling to reconcile their training in medicine and science with what they were experiencing. They considered and dismissed multiple explanations. Sleepwalking, but both women experienced the phenomena, elaborate pranks, but who would have access? Stress-induced hallucinations, but both witnessed the same events. Carbon monoxide, they had the apartment checked. Nothing explained the pattern they were observing, and patterns they knew from their medical training were significant. Random events don't create consistent, escalating patterns. They decided to consult a medium. The medium they contacted was a woman who claimed to have psychic abilities. During a séance conducted in the apartment, the medium relayed what she said she was receiving. According to her reading, the doll was inhabited by the spirit of a young girl named Annabelle Higgins. The girl, the medium claimed, had died on the property years before the apartment complex was built. She had been only 7 years old when she died, and her spirit had remained, lonely and seeking comfort. The medium told them that this spirit had found the doll and inhabited it, seeing in Donna and Angie the kind, nurturing presences she'd lacked in life. The spirit meant no harm, the medium assured them. She simply wanted to stay with them to be cared for. She was asking for help because she was trapped between worlds, unable to move on. The explanation resonated with both women's compassionate natures. They were nurses, caregivers by profession and inclination. The idea of a lonely child spirit seeking comfort appealed to their protective instincts. They told the medium they were willing to let the spirit stay, to coexist peacefully with this presence they now understood as a frightened child. This decision, according to the later investigation, was when the situation transformed from unsettling to dangerous. Within days of the séance, the activity changed character entirely. What had been eerie but essentially harmless movement became something more aggressive, more threatening, and the focus shifted specifically to Lou. Lou had continued visiting the apartment despite his discomfort with the doll. One evening in late 1970, he fell asleep on the couch in the living room. According to his account to investigators, he woke suddenly in the darkness with a crushing weight on his chest. He couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't call out. In the dim light from the street, he could see the doll at the foot of the couch. Then, he claimed, it began moving toward him. Not falling or rolling, but deliberately crawling up his body, its button eyes fixed on his face. He felt pressure on his throat, constricting, suffocating. He struggled but couldn't move his arms or legs. The sensation was of being pinned by something far stronger than a cloth doll had any right to be. Then, as suddenly as it began, the pressure released. Lou gasped for air, scrambling off the couch. The doll was back in its usual position on the chair across the room. When he turned on the lights, everything appeared normal. But his chest ached and his throat bore faint marks he couldn't explain. He told Donna and Angie what happened. They were skeptical. Night terrors, sleep paralysis. They suggested medical explanations. But Lou was adamant this wasn't a nightmare. He'd been awake, struggling, experiencing actual physical sensation. A few days later, something worse occurred. Lou and Angie were alone in the apartment, reviewing study materials. They heard sounds from Donna's bedroom, rustling, movement. Thinking an intruder had broken in, Lou cautiously approached the bedroom. The door was slightly ajar. He pushed it open. The room was empty except for the doll, which sat in its usual position on the bed. But Lou felt an immediate, overwhelming sense of wrongness. The air felt oppressive, thick. The temperature had dropped noticeably. He stepped further into the room. According to his account, something attacked him. He felt sudden, intense pain across his chest. He staggered backward, his shirt tearing. Angie, hearing his shout, rushed in to find him backing out of the room, his chest bleeding. 7 distinct claw marks ran from his chest down to his stomach, deep enough to bleed freely but not severely enough to require stitches. There was nothing in the room that could have caused such injuries. No sharp objects, no broken furniture, nothing. The doll sat motionless on the bed, its button eyes staring blankly. They took Lou to the hospital, easy enough since both women worked there. The attending physician examined the wounds and noted their unusual pattern. 7 parallel marks, evenly spaced, consistent depth. They didn't match any obvious source. Not a scratch from furniture, not a tear from fabric, not self-inflicted. The doctor cleaned and bandaged the wounds and sent Lou home with instructions to return if they showed signs of infection. The wounds healed unusually quickly. Within 2 days, they had faded to faint lines. Within a week, they had disappeared entirely, leaving no scars. This rapid healing struck Lou as almost more unsettling than the attack itself, as if whatever had marked him wanted to erase the evidence. This attack, more than anything else, convinced all 3 adults that they were dealing with something beyond conventional explanation. A lonely child spirit didn't attack people. A benevolent presence didn't leave wounds. Something in that apartment was hostile, intelligent, and dangerous. Donna contacted her parish priest, seeking guidance. The priest listened to their account and recommended they contact paranormal investigators. He gave them the names Ed and Lorraine Warren.
We are deep in the case now. Don't let YouTube bury this file. To keep watching videos like this, you need to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell. Please leave a comment telling me where you're watching this video from. Now, back to the shadows.
The Warrens arrived at the apartment within days. Ed Warren was a self-taught demonologist who had been investigating supernatural claims since the 1950s. Lorraine Warren claimed to be a clairvoyant and light trance medium. Together, they had developed a methodology for assessing paranormal claims, distinguishing between psychological issues, hoaxes, and what they believed to be genuine supernatural activity. They interviewed all 3 witnesses separately, documenting their accounts. They examined the apartment, paying particular attention to Donna's bedroom where much of the activity centered. Lorraine claimed to sense a powerful negative presence associated with the doll, describing it as inhuman and malevolent. Ed Warren's conclusion was unequivocal. This wasn't a child's spirit. The medium, he explained, had been deceived, a common tactic according to his framework. What they were dealing with, he claimed, was a demonic entity, something that had never been human, that had used the guise of a child's spirit to gain permission to remain. That permission, granted during the seance, had given it power to escalate its activities. The goal, Ed explained, wasn't to coexist peacefully. It was to possess. The entity was working toward inhabiting a human host, and its attacks on Lou suggested it was preparing for that final violation. The doll was simply a tool, a focal point, a way of manifesting in the physical world. Ed Warren's recommended course of action was immediate and non-negotiable. Remove the doll, bless the apartment, and never interact with the object again. He offered to take it, to contain it in a way that would prevent further harm. Donna agreed without hesitation. All three adults had been thoroughly frightened by the escalating phenomena. Whatever explanation one accepted, demonic entity, psychological manifestation, elaborate unknown force, the pattern was clear. The doll was associated with fear, physical harm, and escalating danger. Ed Warren wrapped the doll in a blessed cloth and placed it in a bag. According to his later account, even transporting it proved problematic. During the drive back to his home in Monroe, Connecticut, the car's steering repeatedly failed on sharp curves. The power brakes would occasionally not respond. The engine would sputter and die, then restart moments later. Ed claimed to have sprinkled holy water on the doll and commanded any associated entity to cease interfering. The mechanical problems, he said, stopped immediately. At their home, the Warrens placed the doll in a locked case in a room they designated for occult objects. But even there, according to their accounts, the phenomena continued. A visiting priest reportedly mocked the doll, was involved in a serious motorcycle accident hours later, and attributed his survival to divine intervention. A young man who scoffed at the warnings allegedly died in a motorcycle accident that same night after leaving the Warren home. These subsequent stories, while widely reported, lack the documentation of the original apartment incidents. They exist primarily in the Warrens' own accounts and various retellings. What's verifiable is that the doll remained in the Warrens' possession for decades, locked in a case in what they called their occult museum, and that the apartment phenomena ceased entirely after its removal. Donna, Angie, and Lou all returned to their normal lives. According to later interviews, none of them experienced further paranormal activity after the doll was removed. They completed their nursing training, pursued careers, and eventually lost touch with each other. None of them sought publicity for their experiences, and their identities remained largely protected, known primarily through the Warrens' case files and lectures. So what actually happened in that Hartford apartment? Those who believe Donna, Angie, and Lou experienced genuine demonic activity point to several compelling elements. First, the consistency of their accounts. 3 separate adults describing the same phenomena without significant contradictions. Second, the physical evidence of Lou's injuries, documented by hospital records and witnessed by medical professionals. Third, the escalating pattern that matches other documented cases in demonology, where initial benign contact gives way to hostile manifestation. Fourth, the complete cessation of activity once the doll was removed and the apartment blessed. The witnesses had no apparent motive for fabrication. They didn't seek publicity or profit from their experience. They were young professionals with reputations to protect, living in an era when claims of supernatural experience invited skepticism and mockery. Their willingness to consult investigators suggests genuine distress rather than attention-seeking. Skeptics, however, offer alternative frameworks for understanding these events. The most comprehensive explanation centers on shared psychological stress and suggestion. Donna and Angie were nursing students, a profession known for high stress and irregular sleep patterns. Night shifts, difficult patients, and the emotional toll of medical work can create conditions for various perceptual distortions. The initial movement of the doll could be explained by both women moving it unconsciously and forgetting, a well-documented phenomenon in sleep-deprived individuals. Once one person mentioned movement, confirmation bias would make both more likely to notice and remember any changes, while forgetting times the doll remained stationary. The mysterious parchment could have been present in the apartment already, perhaps left by previous tenants or brought in unknowingly, and only noticed once they began looking for anomalies. Lou's experience on the couch matches classic descriptions of sleep paralysis with hypnagogic hallucinations. The crushing chest sensation, inability to move, sense of presence, and vision of the doll moving are all consistent with this well-documented sleep disorder, particularly common in young adults and triggered by stress and irregular sleep patterns. The chest wounds present the most challenging element for skeptical explanation. However, medical literature documents cases of dermatitis artifacta, unconsciously self-inflicted injuries during dissociative states. Lou's intense fear of the doll, combined with the group's escalating belief in its malevolence, could have created psychological conditions where he injured himself during a stress-induced dissociative episode, with no conscious memory of doing so. The parallel marks, while unusual, aren't impossible to self-inflict, and their rapid healing could indicate shallow wounds that appeared worse than they were due to bleeding patterns. The medium's seance likely intensified rather than resolved the situation. By providing a narrative framework, a child's spirit seeking help, the medium gave the phenomena meaning and direction. This is precisely when, according to the witnesses, activity escalated. From a psychological perspective, the seance validated the supernatural interpretation, removing any remaining skeptical guardrails and allowing belief to fully shape perception and experience. The fact that all phenomena ceased once the doll was removed doesn't necessarily support supernatural explanation. Removing the focus of anxiety, combined with the authority of investigators declaring the problem solved, would relieve the psychological stress that generated the experiences in the first place. It's a placebo effect in reverse. Remove the nocebo, and the symptoms resolve. Others suggest the whole case was a hoax from the beginning, though this seems inconsistent with the witnesses' lack of profit-seeking and their consistent reluctance to discuss the matter publicly. If fabrication was the goal, they chose a remarkably unrewarding path. What remains genuinely mysterious is the convergence of testimony. 3 adults, interviewed separately, provided consistent accounts of escalating phenomena. While shared delusion is possible, particularly among people living in close quarters under stress, the specificity of their matching details is noteworthy. The physical evidence is limited but intriguing. Hospital records exist for Lou's treatment, though the exact nature of his injuries wasn't preserved in detail. Photographs of the wounds, if they existed, have never been made public. The Warrens documented the case extensively, but their files remain largely private, released only in curated excerpts. The doll itself remains locked in its case, now part of the Warrens' Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut, maintained by their estate. Signs warn visitors not to touch the case. The museum attracts thousands of visitors annually, drawn by the story's fame and its adaptation into multiple horror films that took considerable creative liberty with the facts. The real doll looks nothing like its cinematic portrayal. It's not a Victorian porcelain doll with a disturbing face, but a cheerful Raggedy Ann with button eyes and a simple smile. This disconnect between the innocent reality and the frightening fiction perhaps says something about how we process fear. We need our monsters to look monstrous. The idea that something so benign-looking could harbor malevolence is more unsettling than any grotesque appearance. What we're left with is a case that resists simple categorization. Was the Annabelle doll a focal point for demonic activity, as the Warrens concluded? Were Donna, Angie, and Lou victims of their own stressed minds, creating phenomena through belief and perception? Was there a hoaxer involved, someone with access to the apartment who orchestrated the events for unknown reasons? Did something genuinely anomalous occur that falls outside both conventional and demonic frameworks, something science hasn't yet explained? Those who believe in the demonic explanation point to the pattern, the physical evidence, and the cessation of activity once proper spiritual intervention occurred. They see it as a clear case of evil using innocence as camouflage, deceiving compassionate people to gain power. Skeptics note that every element can be explained through psychology, suggestion, and the human tendency to find patterns and assign meaning to random events. They see it as a fascinating case study in how belief shapes experience, how stress manifests in perception, and how compelling narratives can emerge from ambiguous events. Perhaps the most unsettling possibility is that both perspectives hold truth, that something happened in that apartment that was simultaneously real to the witnesses and created by the witnesses. A feedback loop where belief and experience became indistinguishable, generating phenomena that were genuine within their own framework, even if they originated from psychological rather than supernatural sources. The story of the Annabelle doll asks us to consider what makes something real. Is an experience less valid because it originates from internal rather than external sources? If 3 adults genuinely believed they were in danger, felt fear, sustained injuries, and found relief only through intervention, does the source of that danger matter to them? Or only to those of us trying to categorize their experience decades later? Whether that makes the Annabelle doll truly haunted or simply the most famous Raggedy Ann in the world is a question each person must answer for themselves. What's certain is that it remains locked in its case, warnings posted, treated with a respect usually reserved for the genuinely dangerous. And Donna, Angie, and Lou, wherever they are now, have never recanted their accounts, never claimed hoax, never sought fame or profit from the one object that changed their understanding of what's possible in an ordinary apartment on an ordinary street. The doll still sits behind glass, button eyes staring forward, red yarn hair faded, but intact, simple smile unchanged after 5 decades. Whether it's a prison for something malevolent, a monument to human fear, or simply a cloth doll wrapped in decades of stories, is a mystery that continues to draw thousands of people who stand before that case, wondering. The silence behind the glass may be the most telling clue of all.
We made it out of this one, but the darkness runs deep. If you think you can handle it, check out the other cases on the channel. Don't risk losing the signal. Like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. The next investigation is starting now.